The morning sun painted the sky above New Geneva Colony in soft purple and gold. Dr. Kate Morrison walked through the halls of St. Mary's Children's Hospital, checking on her young patients. The hospital was the pride of the colony. Children from dozens of worlds came here for treatment. Human doctors worked alongside alien healers to save lives that no one else could save. Kate stopped at room 247. Inside, a young Altarian boy was recovering from heart surgery. His blue skin was pale, but his 3 eyes sparkled when he saw her. Next door, twin human girls were playing with building blocks while their broken bones healed. Down the hall, a furry creature from the Vegan system was learning to walk again, after spinal surgery. This was what Kate loved most about her job. Here, species didn't matter. Pain was pain. Hope was hope. Every child deserved a chance to grow up healthy and happy. "Mom," a voice called from behind her. Kate turned to see her 8-year-old daughter Lucy running down the hall. The little girl had bright red hair and a smile that could light up a room. "Lucy, what are you doing here?" "You should be in school," Kate said, but she was smiling too. "Teacher said we could visit the hospital today. We brought gifts for the sick kids." Lucy held up a bag full of handmade cards and small toys. Kate's heart warmed. This was how humans raised their children. To care, to give, to help others even, when they were just kids themselves. "That's wonderful, sweetheart. But stay close to your group, okay?" Lucy nodded and ran back to her classmates. Kate watched her go, feeling proud and happy. Life was good on New Geneva Colony. 300 miles above the planet, something moved in the darkness of space. Ships that had been invisible suddenly appeared. They were long and sharp, like metal spears. The Zephyrian Collective had arrived. Commander Vextar stood on the bridge of his flagship. His gray skin looked like old stone, and his yellow eyes burned with cold fire. He looked down at the peaceful colony below and felt only disgust. "Look at them," he said to his officers. "Humans. They think they can heal every broken thing in the galaxy. They think their soft hearts make them special." His second-in-command, a female named Kesra, studied the planet through the ship's sensors. "The hospital is clearly marked, Commander. It holds children from 23 different species." "Exactly." Vextar's voice was like grinding metal. "They mix the species together like some kind of soup. They make the galaxy weak with their mercy. Today we show them what real strength looks like." The Zephyrians believed that each species should stay separate and pure. They hated humans for helping other races. They saw human kindness as a disease that was spreading through the galaxy. "Sir," another officer spoke up, "there are over 1,000 children in that hospital. Surely we could target something else to make our point." Vextar turned his burning gaze on the officer. "That hospital is exactly what we need to target. It represents everything wrong with human thinking. When we destroy it, every species in the galaxy will see what happens to those who corrupt the natural order." On the planet below, Kate was helping a young patient eat lunch when the first alarm started ringing. Emergency lights flashed red. Throughout the hospital, the colony's defense system had detected the Zephyrian ships. "All staff, this is not a drill," came the announcement over the speakers. "Hostile ships have been detected in orbit. Please move patients to secure areas immediately." Kate's blood ran cold. She had heard about Zephyrian attacks on other colonies. They were ruthless and cruel. But surely they wouldn't attack a hospital. Even in war, there were rules. There were lines that civilized beings didn't cross. She was wrong. The staff worked quickly to move patients to the lower levels of the hospital. The basement had been reinforced years ago, just in case. Kate helped carry a small alien child who couldn't walk. Other doctors and nurses moved elderly patients in wheelchairs. Everyone worked together, human and alien alike. "Where's Lucy?" Kate suddenly realized she couldn't see her daughter anywhere. "The school group went to the playroom on the 3rd floor," said Nurse Amy Wilson. "I'll go get them." "No, I'll go," Kate said. "Keep moving the patients." Kate ran through the halls, her heart pounding. The playroom was on the opposite side of the hospital from the basement. She had to get there fast. Above them, Vextar gave the order. "Fire." The nuclear weapon was small but powerful. It was designed to destroy the exact target with precision. The Zephyrians wanted to send a message, not destroy the whole colony. Kate was halfway to the playroom when the world turned white. The blast hit the hospital like the fist of an angry god. The building shook and screamed as metal and stone were torn apart. Windows exploded inward. Walls crumbled. The lights went out. Kate was thrown to the floor as the shockwave hit. She covered her head as debris rained down around her. The sound was beyond anything she had ever heard. It was the sound of 1,000 nightmares coming true at once. When the shaking stopped, Kate tried to stand. Her ears were ringing, and dust filled the air so thick she could barely breathe. Emergency lighting flickered on and off, casting crazy shadows on the broken walls. "Lucy!" she screamed. "Lucy!" But there was no answer. Where the playroom had been, there was now only twisted metal and burning rubble. The entire east wing of the hospital was gone. Kate stumbled forward, climbing, over broken concrete and twisted metal. Her hands were bleeding, but she didn't feel the pain. She had to find Lucy. She had to find her daughter. "Help me," a voice called from nearby. Kate turned to see Dr. Ben Cooper trapped under a fallen beam. She helped pull him free, and together, they searched the ruins. They found some survivors. A few children had been protected by a strong doorway. Some staff members had made it to the basement in time. But so many were gone. So many small voices that would never laugh again. Kate never found Lucy's body. The blast had been too complete, too devastating. Her little girl with the bright red hair and the caring heart was simply gone. As Kate sat in the ruins of what had been the galaxy's greatest children's hospital, holding a crying alien child in her arms, she looked up at the stars. Somewhere, up there, the beings who had done this were probably celebrating. They had no idea what they had just unleashed. The news traveled fast across the galaxy. Within hours, every civilized world knew what had happened at New Geneva Colony. The Zephyrian Collective had dropped a nuclear bomb on a children's hospital. 847 children were dead. 312 doctors, nurses, and teachers had died trying to save them. Captain Jake Sullivan was 3 days out from Earth when the message came through. He was commanding the starship Retribution on a routine patrol of the Outer Rim. The communication officer, Lieutenant Lisa Park, received the emergency signal first. "Captain." Lisa's voice was tight with emotion. "Priority message from Colonial. Command. It's about New Geneva." Jake took the message pad and read it twice. His face went white, then red with anger. Lisa had grown up on New Geneva before joining the military. Her younger sister had worked at the hospital as a volunteer. "Lisa," Jake said quietly. "I'm sorry." Lisa nodded but didn't speak. Her hands were shaking as she tried to work her console. Chief Engineer Ben Carter came up from below decks. His face was grim. "Captain, my nephew was visiting that hospital. He was getting treatment for cancer. He was only 6 years old." Jake looked around his bridge. Every face showed the same thing. Shock, grief, and something else. Something that made the air feel dangerous. "Set course for New Geneva," Jake ordered. "Maximum speed." Meanwhile, on dozens of worlds, humans were receiving the same terrible news. The galaxy watched as something strange began to happen. Other species had seen tragedy before. They had seen attacks on civilian targets. Usually the response was predictable. Governments would make angry speeches. Diplomats would file protests. Military forces would make threats. But humans were different. On the manufacturing world of New Detroit, factory workers stopped their machines and stood in silence for 10 minutes. Then they went back to work. But now they were building weapons instead of farming equipment. On the research station at Alpha Centauri, scientists shared their most secret military projects with anyone who asked. Dr. Alex Chen, who had spent 20 years developing new shield technology, uploaded all his research to the public networks. On the farming colony of New Iowa, settlers began converting their cargo ships into fighting vessels. Maria Santos, who had never built anything more dangerous than a tractor, was suddenly designing weapon mounts for civilian spacecraft. The response wasn't organized by any government or military command. It was something deeper. something that came from the heart of what it meant to be human. President Robert Klein called an emergency meeting on Earth. The leaders of the human colonial defense force gathered in the war room deep beneath the Capitol. Admiral Patricia Hayes looked tired and angry. "What do we know about the attack?" the president asked. "It was definitely the Zephyrians," Admiral Hayes replied. "They're not even trying to hide it." Commander Vextar broadcast a message claiming responsibility. He says they did it to show the galaxy what happens to species that corrupt the natural order. General Paul Martinez, head of Colonial Marines, slammed his fist on the table. They killed children, babies. Some of them weren't even human. They killed alien kids too, just because they were being treated by human doctors. "What's the Galactic Council saying?" asked the president. "The usual," Admiral Hayes said with disgust. "They're calling for investigations. They want to hold meetings and file reports. The Altarians and Hydronians are demanding justice, but most of the other species are staying quiet. They're afraid of the Zephyrians." President Klein was quiet for a long moment. He was thinking about his own grandchildren. What if they had been in that hospital? What if some alien fanatic had decided that human kindness was a threat to the galaxy? "What are our options?" he asked. "Officially, we can file a complaint with the Galactic Council. We can ask for sanctions against the Zephyrian Collective. We can threaten to cut off trade. And unofficially?" Admiral Hayes smiled, but it wasn't a pleasant smile. "Unofficially, Captain Sullivan's ship is already heading to New Geneva, and he's not going alone. I'm getting reports from across the rim. Human ships are converging on the area. Military vessels, cargo haulers, even private yachts." "How many ships?" "Right now, maybe 50. But the number is growing every hour." Back at New Geneva, Dr. Kate Morrison was working in the ruins of her hospital. The basement levels had survived the blast, and they had been turned into an emergency medical center. Kate hadn't slept in 3 days. She couldn't sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Lucy's face. Danny Walsh arrived with the first wave of volunteers. He had been a Special Forces soldier before retiring to run a small trading post on the rim. When he heard about the attack, he closed his business and started organizing relief efforts. "Doc Morrison," he said, finding Kate in the makeshift surgery. "I've got medical supplies coming in from 12 different worlds. Food, water, everything you need." "Thank you," Kate said. She was operating on a small vegan child who had lost both legs in the blast. "But what I really need is for this to never have happened." "I can't give you that," Danny said. "But I can give you something else." "What?" "Justice." Kate looked up from her patient. Danny's eyes were hard as steel. "The Zephyrians think they can murder children and walk away. They think humans are weak because we care about others. They're about to learn how wrong they are." Across the galaxy, other species were beginning to notice something unusual. Human merchant ships were sharing information about Zephyrian fleet movements. Human colonies were pooling their resources to buy weapons. Human civilians were volunteering for military service in numbers that broke all records. The Altarians, whose children had also died in the attack, quietly began sharing intelligence with human forces. The Hydronians, an aquatic species known for their peaceful nature, offered their advanced stealth technology to any human ship that wanted it. Even species that had been neutral began to take sides. The attack on the hospital had crossed a line that civilized beings didn't cross. If the Zephyrians could murder children in a hospital, nowhere was safe. On his flagship, Commander Vextar was pleased with the results of his attack. The humans were angry as expected, but their response seemed scattered and unorganized. Individual ships were moving around, but there was no massive fleet deployment, no declaration of war from Earth. "They're weak," he told his officers. "Look at them. They send cargo ships and civilian volunteers. They hold memorial services and make speeches. Where are their warships? Where are their threats of revenge?" His intelligence officer, Kesra, wasn't so sure. "Commander, our spies report unusual activity across human space. They're mobilizing resources on a scale we've never seen before." "Mobilizing what? Farm equipment? Medical supplies?" These humans can't even protect a hospital full of their own children. But Vextar was wrong about humans. He understood their capacity for kindness and mercy. What he didn't understand was that these same qualities, when threatened, could transform into something far more dangerous. Humans didn't just fight for territory or resources. They fought for ideas, for principles, for the belief that children should be safe in hospitals no matter what species they belonged to. The Zephyrians had attacked that belief, and now they were about to learn what humans were truly capable of when someone threatened the things they held most sacred. Captain Sullivan's ship was still 2 days away from New Geneva when he received a message that made him smile for the first time since hearing about the attack. "Captain," Lisa Park reported, "I'm reading over 200 human ships converging on our position. And sir, they're armed." The galaxy was about to witness something it had never seen before. Not just human military might, but human determination. The Zephyrians had wanted to teach the galaxy a lesson about strength. They were about to get one. 2 weeks after the attack, something was happening across human space that no one had ever seen before. It wasn't planned by any government or military command. It was something that came from deep inside the human heart. On the mining world of New Montana, retired military strategist Dr. Alex Chen was working 18 hours a day in his small apartment. His computer screen showed star maps, ship positions, and communication logs from dozens of worlds. Alex had taught military strategy at the academy before becoming a school teacher. Now he was back to his old job, but this time he was working for everyone. "Maria, are you getting this?" Alex spoke into his communication device. On the screen, Maria Santos appeared. She was in her workshop on New Texas, surrounded by metal and sparks. "I'm here, Alex. The modifications are working. We've turned 15 cargo ships into fighting vessels this week. The farmers here are giving us everything they have." Alex nodded. "Good. Danny, what's your status?" Another face appeared on the screen. Danny Walsh was on a transport ship heading to the Outer Rim. Behind him, Alex could see dozens of men and women in military gear. "We've got volunteers from 23 colonies," Danny reported. "Most of them are retired military, but some are just regular people who want to help. They're all angry, Alex. Really angry." This was happening everywhere. Humans who had never met each other were working together like parts of a giant machine. Teachers were sharing military knowledge, engineers were designing weapons, farmers were sending food to support the war effort. Even criminals in galactic prisons were volunteering for dangerous missions. Captain Jake Sullivan watched this happen from his command center on New Geneva. His ship Retribution had become the heart of a growing fleet. Every day more ships arrived. Not just military vessels, but converted freighters, mining ships, and even luxury yachts that had been fitted with weapons. "How many ships do we have now?" Jake asked his aide. 437, sir, and more coming every hour." Jake looked out at the ships floating in space around New Geneva. 3 weeks ago, he had commanded one patrol ship. Now he was leading the largest human fleet ever assembled, and he hadn't been given the job by any admiral or president. Other captains had simply started following his orders. "Sir," Lieutenant Lisa Park called from her station, "the Altarians are here." Jake turned to see a delegation of tall, blue-skinned aliens entering his command center. Their leader was Ambassador Zorval, whose own grandson had died in the hospital attack. "Captain Sullivan," Zorval said in his deep voice, "my government cannot officially join your war effort, but we can share information." The ambassador handed Jake a datapad. "These are the locations of every Zephyrian base and supply depot in this sector. We have been watching them for years." Jake studied the information. It was incredibly detailed. "Why are you helping us?" "Because they killed our children too," Zorval said simply. "And because we have seen what happens when evil is allowed to grow unchecked." The Altarians weren't the only ones helping. The Hydronians, an aquatic species known for their peaceful nature, had quietly given human ships their stealth technology. The insectoid Formicans were sharing intelligence about Zephyrian troop movements. Even some species that had been neutral were taking sides. Commander Vextar was beginning to realize that his perfect plan had problems. His intelligence reports were getting more disturbing every day. "Show me the latest surveillance," he ordered. His communications officer. The screen showed images from human space. Shipyards working day and night. Civilian vessels being converted to warships. Massive supply convoys heading toward the outer rim. "How many ships do they have?" Vextar asked. "Our estimates say at least 500 human vessels are now in the area," Kessera reported. "But the number keeps growing. 500 cargo ships and patrol boats," Vextar said with contempt. "They're trying to scare us with numbers." But his science officer had more bad news. "Commander, these aren't just civilian ships anymore. Our scans show they've been heavily modified. Many of them now have military-grade weapons and shields." Vextar was quiet for a moment. "What about their tactics? Are they massing for a direct assault?" "That's what's strange, sir. They're not doing what we expected. Instead of gathering in one place, they're spreading out across multiple star systems. And they're not attacking our main bases. Then what are they doing? They're learning about us, our supply routes, our communication networks, our patrol schedules. It's like they're studying us." This was true. The humans weren't rushing into battle like angry barbarians. They were being smart about it. Alex Chen and other strategists were teaching the fleet commanders everything they knew about warfare. They studied Zephyrian culture, learned their weaknesses, and planned their attacks carefully. Dr. Kate Morrison had become more than just a doctor. She was now serving as a medical officer for the fleet, but she was also doing something else. She was talking to Zephyrian prisoners and deserters, learning about their society and their fears. "They're not as united as they pretend to be," she told Captain Sullivan during one of their meetings. "Many of them are starting to question the attack on the hospital. Some of their own people are horrified by what Vextar did." "Can we use that?" Jake asked. "Maybe. But first we need to show them that we're serious. They attacked us because they thought we were weak. They need to learn that kindness and weakness are not the same thing." The first real battle came 3 weeks after the attack. A Zephyrian supply convoy was moving through the Kepler system when it was suddenly surrounded by human ships. The humans didn't announce themselves or make demands. They simply attacked. The battle was over in minutes. The Zephyrian ships were destroyed or captured. But the humans did something unexpected. They rescued the Zephyrian survivors and treated their wounded. Then they sent them home with a message. "Tell your commander," the human fleet captain said, to the Zephyrian prisoners, "that this is just the beginning. We will keep coming until justice is done." The message spread through the Zephyrian fleet like wildfire. These humans were not the soft, weak beings they had expected. They were skilled, fighters who could strike anywhere, anytime. But they were also something else. They were honorable. They rescued their enemies and treated prisoners with respect. This confused many Zephyrians. In their culture, strength meant cruelty. The strong took what they wanted and destroyed their enemies completely. But these humans were strong and merciful at the same time. It was something they didn't understand. Back on his flagship, Commander Vexitar was getting angry. His supply lines were being cut. His communications were being jammed. Human ships appeared out of nowhere, struck hard, and then vanished before his forces could respond. "How are they doing this?" he demanded. "We have the larger ships. We have the better weapons. Why are we losing?" Kessera had been studying the human attacks. "They're fighting differently than we expected, sir. They're not trying to destroy our main fleet. Instead, they're attacking our support systems, our fuel depots, our supply ships, our communication stations. Then we'll hit them where they live," Vextar said. "Target their colonies. Show them what happens when they challenge us." But when Zephyrian ships tried to attack human colonies, they found them heavily defended. The humans had moved their civilian populations to safety and turned their worlds into fortresses. Every attack was met with fierce resistance. More importantly, every attack on human civilians made the human fleet more determined. They weren't just fighting for revenge anymore. They were fighting to protect their way of life. The galaxy was watching this conflict with growing amazement. The humans were showing military skills that no one had expected. They were adapting to new situations faster than any species had ever seen. They were learning from every battle and becoming more dangerous with each victory. But they were also showing something else. They were proving that a species could be both strong and good. They could fight fiercely when necessary, but they never forgot their values. They never became the monsters they were fighting against. Commander Vextar was about to learn a lesson that would change the galaxy forever. He had wanted to teach humans about strength. Instead, he was about to discover what real strength looked like. 6 months after the attack on the children's hospital, the galaxy was watching something it had never seen before. The humans were not just fighting back. They were systematically taking apart the Zephyrian collective piece by piece. Commander Vextar stood in his command center, staring at a map that showed his shrinking territory. Red marks indicated destroyed bases. Yellow marks showed supply lines that had been cut. Blue marks were communication stations that had gone silent. "How many ships have we lost this week?" he asked his aide. 43, sir. But that's not the worst part. What do you mean? Most of them weren't destroyed, they were captured. The humans are taking our ships and using them against us. This was true. Lieutenant Sam Rodriguez had become famous throughout the human fleet for his boarding operations. He and his team would attack Zephyrian ships, capture them intact, and then use them to strike deeper into enemy territory. The Zephyrians never knew which ships were really theirs anymore. "Sir," another officer reported, "we've lost contact with the mining station at Beta 7. "Destroyed?" Vextar asked. "No, sir. Captured. The humans are using it as a forward base now." Vextar slammed his fist on the table. "How are they doing this? We have the superior technology. We have the larger fleet. We should be winning." The truth was that the humans were fighting in a way the Zephyrians had never experienced. They didn't just attack with brute force. They used their intelligence to find weaknesses and exploit them. Captain Jake Sullivan had divided his fleet into small groups that could strike anywhere at any time. Each group was led by experienced commanders who knew how to adapt to changing situations. Pilot Amy Johnson had developed new fighter tactics that could destroy Zephyrian squadrons twice her size. Engineer Ben Carter had figured out how to jam Zephyrian communications and turn their own weapons against them. But the most powerful weapon the humans had was something the Zephyrians couldn't understand or counter. It was Dr. Kate Morrison. Kate had become more than a medical officer. She had become the moral voice of the human fleet. When Zephyrian prisoners were brought aboard human ships, she was the one who treated their wounds and talked to them. "Why do you do this?" a wounded Zephyrian officer asked her one day. "We killed your children. We destroyed your hospital. Why do you heal us?" Kate looked at the alien lying in the medical bay. His gray skin was scarred from battle, and his yellow eyes showed confusion and pain. "Because that's what doctors do," she said simply. "We heal people, all people. But we're your enemies. You're also someone's son, someone's father, someone's friend. The children who died in my hospital, they would have grown up to heal people too. Even people who had hurt them." The Zephyrian officer was quiet for a long time. "I don't understand humans." "I know," Kate said. "That's why you lost this war before it even started." Kate wasn't just treating prisoners. She was broadcasting messages to the entire Zephyrian fleet. She didn't threaten them or make angry speeches. She simply showed pictures of the children who had died and talked about their dreams. "This is Lucy Morrison," she would say, showing a picture of her red-haired daughter. She wanted to be a teacher. She loved to help other children learn to read. "This is Zarketh of Altair," she continued, showing a blue-skinned boy with 3 eyes. He wanted to be an engineer. He was building a model spaceship when the bomb fell. "This is Sarah Kim from Earth Colony 5. She wanted to be a doctor like her mother. She had already started studying anatomy books." One by one, Kate showed the faces of all 847 children who had died. She told their stories. She shared their dreams. She made them real to the Zephyrians who had killed them. The effect was devastating. Zephyrian soldiers began to desert. Entire ships surrendered without fighting. Some Zephyrian commanders refused orders to attack civilian targets. "She's destroying our morale," Kesra reported to Vextar. "Our own people are starting to question what we did. Then stop listening to her broadcasts." "We've tried, sir. But the humans are broadcasting on every frequency. They've hacked into our communication systems. Every time we try to block them, they find a new way through. This was part of the human strategy. They weren't just fighting with ships and weapons. They were fighting with words and ideas. They were showing the Zephyrians exactly what they had destroyed and making them face the consequences. The turning point came during the Battle of Proxima Station. The humans had surrounded a major Zephyrian base and were preparing to attack. But instead of shooting first, they did something no one expected. Captain Sullivan opened a communication channel to the station. "This is the human fleet," he said. "We know you have civilians on that station, families, children. We're giving you 1 hour to evacuate them." The Zephyrian commander, Admiral Thexmore, couldn't believe what he was hearing. "This is a trick. You're trying to make us weak." "No trick," Sullivan replied. "We don't kill children. That's what makes us different from you." For 59 minutes, nothing happened. Then, in the last minute, evacuation ships began leaving the station. Zephyrian families fled to safety while the human fleet waited. When the evacuation was complete, the humans attacked. The battle was fierce but short. The station fell, but every civilian had been saved. Admiral Thexmore was captured during the battle. When he was brought before Captain Sullivan, he asked the question that was haunting every Zephyrian. "Why did you let our families escape?" "Because your families didn't bomb our hospital," Sullivan said. "They're not our enemies, they're just people caught in a war they didn't start." Word of this spread throughout the Zephyrian fleet. The humans were not like them. The humans had rules. They protected the innocent, even when those innocents belonged to their enemies. Some Zephyrians began to wonder, if the humans were so evil and weak, why were they acting more honorably than the Zephyrians themselves? Commander Vextar was losing, more than just battles. He was losing the support of his own people. Zephyrian colonies were declaring neutrality. Military units were refusing to follow orders. His empire was falling apart from the inside. "We need to end this quickly," he told his remaining officers. "One decisive battle. We'll gather our remaining fleet and crush the humans once and for all." But Kessera had bad news. "Sir, our spies report that the humans have over 800 ships now. They've been joined by vessels from 12 different species. The Altarians have officially declared war on us. The Hydronians are providing them with advanced technology. Then we'll use our secret weapon," Vextar said. "The Planet Killer." His officers looked shocked. The Planet Killer was a massive weapon that could destroy entire worlds. It had never been used because it was considered too horrible, even by Zephyrian standards. "Sir," one officer said carefully, "if we use that weapon, every species in the galaxy will unite against us." "They're already uniting against us," Vextar snarled. "The humans have turned the galaxy against us with their weakness and mercy. It's time to show everyone what real power looks like." But Vextar didn't understand what he was really facing. The humans weren't winning because they were weak. They were winning because they were strong in ways he couldn't comprehend. They were strong enough to show mercy to their enemies. Strong enough to protect civilians in the middle of a war. Strong enough to turn their grief into justice instead of revenge. The Zephyrians had thought they were fighting soft-hearted fools. Instead, they were facing warriors who fought for something bigger than themselves. Warriors who never forgot that the goal wasn't just to win, but to remain worthy of the children they were avenging. The final battle was coming, and Commander Vextar was about to learn what humans were truly capable of when someone threatened everything they held sacred. The final battle began in the Vega system, where Commander Vextar had gathered the last of his fleet around a massive weapon that could destroy planets. The humans knew about the Planet Killer from their Zephyrian prisoners, and they knew they had to stop it before Vextar could use it on innocent worlds. Captain Jake Sullivan stood on the bridge of the Retribution, looking at the largest space battle in galactic history. Over 1,000 human ships faced the remaining Zephyrian fleet. But this wasn't just about ships and weapons anymore. This was about what kind of galaxy they all wanted to live in. "Sir," Lieutenant Lisa Park reported, "the Zephyrians are powering up their Planet Killer. Target appears to be the Altarian homeworld." Jake's blood went cold. The Altarian homeworld had billions of innocent people. Men, Women, children who had nothing to do with this war except that their government had helped the humans seek justice. All ships, attack formation, Jake ordered. We end this now. The battle was fierce and terrible. Zephyrian ships fought desperately, knowing they were facing their final defeat. Human vessels, joined by ships from a dozen allied species, pressed forward despite heavy losses. Lieutenant Sam Rodriguez led one final boarding mission against a Zephyrian command ship. His team fought their way through corridors filled with smoke and fire. When they reached the bridge, they found the Zephyrian officers trying to destroy their computers. "Stop!" Sam shouted. "We need those records intact." The Zephyrian captain laughed bitterly. "You think you've won? Even if you defeat us here, there are other fleets, other commanders who think like Vextar. This war will never end." Sam looked at the alien officer with sad eyes. "Yes, it will. Because we're going to show the galaxy something it's never seen before." Meanwhile, Dr. Kate Morrison was working in the medical bay of a human cruiser, treating wounded from both sides. A young Zephyrian soldier was brought in with severe burns. As Kate worked to save his life, he looked at her with confusion. "Why?" he whispered. "Why do you help me?" "My people killed your daughter." Kate's hands never stopped working. "Because you're not the one who killed her. And because saving lives is what we do. It's who we are." The soldier closed his eyes. "I joined the military because I believed humans were making the galaxy weak. But you're not weak at all, are you?" "No," Kate said softly. "We're just different. We choose to be strong in ways your leaders never understood." The battle raged for 6 hours. Finally, the human fleet broke through the Zephyrian defenses and surrounded the planet killer. The massive weapon was disabled before it could fire, and Vextar's flagship was captured. When Vextar was brought aboard the Retribution, he expected to be executed immediately. That's what he would have done to his enemies. Instead, he was taken to a conference room where Captain Sullivan was waiting. "So," Vextar said, his yellow eyes burning with hate, "the soft humans have won. Are you going to kill me now?" "No," Sullivan said simply. "No? Then what? Torture? Prison? We're going to put you on trial. You'll face justice for what you did to those children." Vextar laughed harshly. "Justice? From the species that corrupts the galaxy with its weakness? What do you know about justice?" Sullivan was quiet for a moment. Then he activated a screen on the wall. It showed images of the rebuilt children's hospital on New Geneva. Alien and human children were playing together in the gardens. Doctors from dozens of species were working side by side. "That's justice," Sullivan said. "We didn't let your hatred destroy what we built. We made it stronger." "You should have wiped us out," Vextar snarled. "That's what real warriors do. They destroy their enemies completely." "That's what we could have done," Sullivan agreed. "But that's not what the children in that hospital would have wanted. They would have wanted us to be better than you." The next part shocked the galaxy. President Robert Klein announced that while the Zephyrian military leaders would face war crimes, trials, the Zephyrian people would not be punished for their leaders' actions. Human ships would protect Zephyrian civilians during the transition to a new government. Food and medical aid would be provided to Zephyrian colonies that had been damaged in the war. When alien diplomats asked why humans were helping the people who had supported the attack on their children, the answer was always the same. Because that's what the children would have grown up to do. The war crimes trials were broadcast across the galaxy. Commander Vexistar and his officers were found guilty of crimes against innocent life. But even then, they were not executed. They were sentenced to spend the rest of their lives helping to rebuild what they had destroyed. "You will work in hospitals," the judge told Vextar. "You will care for sick children. You will learn what it means to create life instead of destroying it." Vextar stared at the judge in disbelief. "This is your justice? Making me help the weak and sick?" "This is our justice," the judge replied, "giving you the chance to become something better than what you were." 1 year after the attack, Dr. Kate Morrison stood in the memorial garden of the new St. Mary's Children's Hospital. The garden was beautiful, with flowers from dozens of worlds growing together in harmony. In the center was a wall with the names of all 847 children who had died in the attack. Children from across the galaxy came to play in this garden. Human children played with Altarian children. Zephyrian orphans, whose parents had died in the war, learned to laugh again alongside the children of other species. Kate watched them play and felt something she hadn't felt since Lucy died. Hope. Dr. Morrison? A small voice said behind her. Kate turned to see a young Zephyrian girl, maybe 6 years old. Her gray skin was lighter than most of her species, and her yellow eyes were bright with curiosity. Yes, sweetie? My teacher says, you knew some of the children who died here. What were they like? Kate knelt down to the little girl's level. They were kind. They were curious about the world, just like you. They loved to learn and play and help others. I wish I could have met them. You can, Kate said gently. You can live the way they would have lived. You can be kind to others, help people who are hurting, and make the galaxy a better place. The little girl nodded seriously. I want to be a doctor when I grow up, like you. Kate smiled, and for the first time in a year, it was a real smile. I think you'll be a wonderful doctor. The galaxy had learned something important from the human response to tragedy. Strength wasn't about how much destruction you could cause. Real strength was about how much good you could create, even after experiencing the worst possible loss. Other species began to change their ways. The old rules of warfare, where civilians were fair targets, were abandoned. New laws protected children and hospitals across the galaxy. The idea that showing mercy was weakness became a relic of the past. Commander Vextar spent his days working in a pediatric ward on a human colony. At first, he had been angry and resentful, but slowly, as he watched doctors save lives and children recover from illness, something changed in him. One day, a small human boy asked him, "Are you the bad man who hurt the other children?" Vextar had expected this question for months. "Yes," he said quietly. "I am." "Do you feel sorry?" Vextar looked at the boy's innocent face. "Yes, I feel very sorry. My mom says when people feel sorry and try to be better, we should forgive them. Do you want to be better?" "I'm trying to learn how," Vextar said. The boy nodded. "That's good. Being good is hard sometimes, but it's worth it." That night, Vextar sent a message to Captain Sullivan. "I think I'm beginning to understand what you meant about justice. It's not about punishment. It's about giving people the chance to choose who they want to be." The human response to the attack on St. Mary's Children's Hospital became a legend that spread across the galaxy. It wasn't a story about revenge or military victory. It was a story about a species that chose to respond to the worst possible tragedy by becoming even more committed to the values that made them human. They had shown the galaxy what they were truly capable of. Not just incredible strength in battle, but the wisdom to know when to fight and when to forgive. The courage to choose hope over hatred, even in their darkest hour. And most importantly, they had proven that the children who died in that hospital had not died in vain. Their legacy lived on in every act of kindness, every choice to help rather than hurt, every decision to build rather than destroy. The galaxy would never be the same, and that was exactly what those children would have wanted.